So today we're going to be talking about a little bit about Intune app protection policies, and then extending mobile threat defense into BYOD for BYOD users. So in terms of talking about app protection policies, how many of you know what app protection policies are? Please raise your hand so we get an idea. All right, that's a pretty significant portion of you. I see some folks from my team raising their hand. And then we have, how many of you are actually actively using them in your organization today? It's a pretty decent amount. So essentially, the purpose of app protection policies is to protect and separate corporate data and apps from end users' personal data and apps. So this is kind of an overview of the representation of what that might look like on a BYOD device. So you kind of have the managed app container, so to say, where they're essentially corporate apps used for work on the go. And some apps such as Word, for example, can be used for, or Outlook, for example, can be used for multiple identities. You can use them for your corporate work and also for your personal work, which is where Intune app protection come in as well, where we're applying all of your IT admins data protection settings just to the corporate part of that identity as you've logged into any specific app targeted by app protection policies. So the app protection policies are built into all the core Microsoft apps, as well as some third-party apps that are commonly used for productivity in organizations today. And you can also enable them for your business's own line of business apps, essentially, using some of the dev tools that we offer. So they're available on Android and iOS, and then on Windows, they're referred to more as Windows Information Protection for the context of Windows. So that's kind of the overview of app protection. We're not going to go too deep into app protection today, but if you are interested in learning more, feel free to visit the Microsoft Endpoint Manager booth, which is right next door here, to ask someone or ask me about app protection and how you can continue to take advantage of the settings that we have there. So to go into the main topic today, it's basically taking advantage of Intune's mobile threat defense connector. So how did Intune get into the state where it is now, where it provides the functionality of taking kind of the threat detection that industry-leading mobile threat defense vendors provide? So typically, companies are proactive in protecting PCs from vulnerabilities and attacks. Mobile devices often go unmonitored and unprotected, especially in BYOD cases. So mobile devices do have some built-in protection in the form of app container isolation and vetted consumer app stores, but these platforms still remain vulnerable to sophisticated attacks. So that's essentially where we have our mobile threat defense offering, finding it to be advantageous. So here's kind of an overview of what the connector looks like. It's very general, but it kind of explains what the offering is today. So at the top, you have a device that has been targeted with app protection policies for a corporate user, and that device has basically been detected as having some sort of threat by your chosen mobile threat defense vendor. So that vendor, because they have a client app on your device, they're able to detect what that specific threat is and pass that over to Intune, where Intune now uses that threat level and compares it to what your IT admin thinks is fine, and either blocks or allows access to corporate data within an app using app protection policies. And then we basically surface that error or threat in either the Intune console or the mobile threat defense console in varying levels of granularity and detail. And then for remediation, what you have is basically the same workflow where the mobile threat defense partner now needs to detect your device as not having the threat anymore, pass that data over to Intune, and now we can allow app access into your protected apps such as Outlook or OneDrive. And that same threat remediation is reflected in the Intune console and the mobile threat defense console as well. So this is important because as more employees use devices for work and to access sensitive information, the information from all of the MTD vendors can help you protect devices and your resources from increasingly sophisticated attacks. So what exactly is the new functionality? So basically mobile threat defense is now available with Intune app protection policies. So that essentially means you can now enable your end users that have not enrolled their devices to be blocked or selectively wiped from accessing corporate content on their Android or iOS device if your chosen MTD vendor detects their device as risky. So this offering is unique from other EMMs. So the uniqueness comes from the fact that you can use this without enrollment, and additionally, Intune has an amazing integration with all the core Office apps, as well as a lot of other Microsoft apps, but the core Office apps that are used majorly in all organizations to be productive on the go. So you no longer need to enroll your device to take advantage of the mobile threat defense services. So if any customers were blocked previously due to not having the support, you can now go ahead and look into rolling this out for your customers. So one point that I really wanted to hit was this is not a conditional access feature. This is a purely app protection policy feature. So what we had prior to this announcement was the Intune connector or mobile threat defense being fed into a device compliance policy and providing device-based conditional access. And now with this setting, it's going to be tied into an app protection policy feature. So you're welcome to add your app-based conditional access on top of this, but it is not a requirement to use the mobile threat defense signals. So how to configure. So this is kind of a summary of what the admin experience is going to look like. We have docs up about this, so you can go back and take a look at this and try experimenting it with yourself. So essentially, prerequisites is to set up licensing and set up the definitions of high, medium, and low levels in the respective MTD console for each threat classification. So this is something you would do as an organization, talking to your security folks. What are the threats that you're most concerned about, and what level of classification do they mean for you? And then in the Intune portal, configure the MTD connector, turn on the toggle for enabling support for app protection policies under connector setup, and then configure the app protection policy setting under conditional launch. And the setting is going to be called max allowed device threat level. So I'm going to go through this right now so it becomes super easy and clear for everyone to go back and try it. So this is where we go into the demo. So one of the MTD partners that we're going to show this demo with is Lookout for Work. And I'm going to show you what that looks like. All right, so let's close this. So this is our Microsoft Endpoint Manager Admin Center. What I did was I went to Tenant Administration, to Connectors and Tokens, Mobile Threat Defense, and basically I added a new connector. This one's already added, and I went to Lookout for Work. The settings that I had to turn on were app protection policy settings for iOS and Android, and I turned those on. So these are the existing MDM compliance policy settings, which I'm not going to mess with. They're all going to stay off, and these are the ones for app protection policy that I'm going to turn on. So that's what it would look like in the MTD connector UI. So this is just a quick screenshot of what it would look like. Next part, creating an app protection policy, targeting apps and users. So here we have same console, go to apps, go to app protection policies. I made this policy already, but essentially what you have is you're going to the conditional launch section down here and selecting max allowed device threat level. Block access, or wipe if you wish. Oh. All right. So threat remediation. So if you were in Brad's keynote session earlier today, you might have seen his demo with the side-loaded WhatsApp++ app and uninstalling that and basically getting access back into the Outlook mobile app. So now I'm going to do it on iOS. So I have a side-loaded build of OneDrive, which is because it hasn't released officially with this functionality, but it is coming to soon. You see this dialog, and it tells you to open Lookout for Work because there's a threat detected on this device. I go into Lookout for Work. It's just going to update its threat level. And it should tell me that I don't have a passcode on this iPad. Yeah, I don't have a passcode on this iPad, but I know how to remediate that. It's fairly straightforward. So I go passcode, turn passcode on. My passcode is going to be 1111, so please don't hack into my iPad. And once my iPad accepts my passcode, I should have remediated the threat. And ideally, once this accepts my passcode, when I go back to the OneDrive app and recheck my settings, I should have access into OneDrive now. So while this is loading up, lighting up this capability requires some work from our mobile threat defense partners, as well as some of the Intune SDK protected apps, which we're working with actively on iOS. So it's available entirely on Android today with Better Mobile and Lookout for Work. And it's available on iOS with Imperium and Lookout for Work. So, sorry about that. So Lookout should now tell me that I have a passcode, so I'm good. I go into OneDrive. I have to recheck my status just to verify and tell the service that we're good. So now, this is the expected behavior where we see the normal PIN to get into an app, and my PIN was also 1111 because I'm super secure, and now you can get access to your app. So the PIN works according to normal PIN settings that come with Intune app protection policies. So going back to what we were talking about before, with what's supported today. So I was saying which mobile threat defense app vendors are supported today, and which apps are supported today. So all the apps should be supported on Android devices with this version of the company portal, which is in stores now, so it's the latest version. And we're working actively with Microsoft Outlook and OneDrive. Other Tier 1 Microsoft apps will be releasing as a fast follow in Q1 of 2020. And then all 8 of our mobile threat defense partners, so if you see any of these, we are working actively with them to enable them for unenrolled scenarios with app protection policies. And they continue to be supported for enrolled devices with device compliance and device CA. So just to hit the point home in terms of what is coming, so actually working with mobile threat defense partners to enable them for use with internet app protection policies in the long term. And the call to action is, if you're using app protection policies today, which I know you are because you raised your hands for it, go ahead and go back to your hotel rooms and try adding the max device threat level setting that I had shown you to complement your current app protection policies if you see your vendor on one of the supported lists. And in addition, continue to let us know what you think on user voice, and I'll be around at the booth right next door if anyone has any questions. So, does anyone have any questions right now? We have Gina over there with the mic, so I can hear what you guys are saying as well. So, sorry, Gina, we just have someone up here.
Is it always going to be third party for the mobile threat defense vendors, or is Microsoft going to kind of have their own built-in something one day? Hopefully?
Yeah, so that's a great question. Right now, we do support all of our third-party mobile threat defense vendors. And they are some of the industry-leading vendors, which is why we have that integration with them. Depending on how any Microsoft internal threat defense solutions come out, I'm sure we'll be supporting those as well. But it's really up to the customers and what they find valuable and making sure that Intune provides a good experience with whatever vendor they choose. Any other questions? Thanks, Gino.
Hi, so this is for BYOD. You're expecting that BYOD user to have this threat, a third-party threat protection on their device?
Yeah, so unfortunately with the way that it's set up right now, just threat detection capabilities do require the install of a client app. That's in addition to the protected app that they are trying to access.
Okay.
So that's something that is going to continue to be a requirement. But if it helps you feel better, we do help the end user get set up with that requirement. We have guided kind of workflows so the end user knows what they need to be doing. And if they are in a state where they have done something, but they're saying this isn't updating, there are ways where they can recheck and make sure that the service is getting the updated signal for them.
So does this work okay with Android 10 and the changes they've made?
Yep, it should be working with Android. I've tested it.
Yeah, and so it's not applicable to Android Enterprise?
No, so this is specifically for man without enrollment or abstract policies without enrollment. With Android Enterprise, you could potentially take advantage of the connectors, but it would be with some of the existing workflows that we have now.
How about Pixel or Chrome OS?
With Chrome OS, we haven't actively tested this behavior, but if that is something that your customers are interested in or you're interested in, feel free to talk to me about it and I can understand your scenario a little better.
So how does this integrate with iOS 13 user enrollment feature, the brand new functionality?
Oh, there you are. Yeah, so that's a great question. We do get that a lot. So we're still working on how that story plays out for mobile threat defense with user enrollment. But I know there is going to be a user enrollment session this week. I think it's on Thursday or Wednesday, where they're going to talk about how other app protection policies work with user enrollment, and we expect to have this current app protection support, which includes mobile threat defense, coming soon for that as well. But other app protection policies should be supported, and our session, we'll talk about it then. All right, thank you guys so much for coming. Our booth is next door, and if you have questions, feel free to ask on User Voice.